Nora, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Nora. I'm com supervisor for Scanline Germany, one of them. And yeah, I started 3 years ago with my transition journey from my male self to my new self. So yeah.
Thank you. G?
Yeah, I'm G. I'm a CD supervisor at Cinesite Montreal. I've been working in visual effects for around 10 years now. Um, I I'm also transgender and I started my transition about 5 years ago. Yeah, so all within the industry at the same time. Yeah.
Fab, thank you. And Charmaine?
Hey everyone, I'm Charmaine Chan. I'm a visual effects supervisor at Industrial Light and Magic. I'm currently at the London office, and I've been queer all my life, so I'm just here to represent that.
Well, I'm super happy to have you all here today. So thank you very much. I think it's really important that we have representation, not in our industry, but in all industries and everywhere, basically, to put it short and sweet. So going straight into the questions, and we're going to keep it quite loose and kind of have a bit more of a chat. But to kick off, I'll go back to you, Charmaine, and go around the other way. Why do you feel that representation in the workplace matters today?
I think representation is super important. I mean, I think if you think of the history of visual effects and all the amazing talented people who've been working on there, generally what happens is, there's a certain demographic that tends to be spotlighted with, all the information and knowledge of the industry, but that's, not completely true. There's been amazing women, there's been amazing transgender people who have completely, pushed forward our visual effects, industry and pioneered some new technology and processes and ways. And to me, I feel like if you don't see it, you can't be it. And it's very important for me to absolutely, be my true self and be my true self out in the public, because the more people see that, like, oh, a queer woman of color can make it in this industry, then another queer woman of color can also do the same. So, I absolutely believe representation is super important, especially in industries that are very white male dominated.
Yes, definitely. G or Nora, anything to add to that?
No, I think it's like I think the more we speak about it and yeah, have people around who are living openly queer or are transgender or whatever, it gets more normalized. And I think it's very important, not only in our industry but like in our whole life, to yeah, just be ourselves, and everyone is fine with that. And even if the people who are not fine with it, it's okay. I mean, there's usually like a natural distance that builds up, and that's fine. But I think it's very important to yeah, be our true selves and to live it, and so that other people can see it, and then it gets normalized over time.
Yes, yeah, so true. And
Yeah.
G, anything to add?
Yeah, I think just the more people that are out there, the more other people see it and they feel more comfortable in themselves to come out and be themselves, and ultimately like everyone allows to be more creative and create a better environment for everyone.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
This question might be a bit personal, so feel free to skip or anything like that. But what has been your own personal experience, either in the workplace or out of it? We don't need to mention company names or anything if you don't want to. But how has your experience been, just in terms of feeling comfortable being yourself, really? And might be a weird add-on, but has working remotely actually added anything to that or taken anything away from that? G, do you mind if we start with you on that?
Yeah, I think I definitely had I was kind of out to all my friends before the pandemic, and then the pandemic happened at the perfect time for me, where it gave me a chance to work from home, still do my job, and just find myself at the same time. So that was kind of my experience, and now I go back into the office and I completely feel myself, and that kind of happened at the perfect time. I've got a very supportive work, and I've not really found any problems in or out of work. I think Montreal is a very good city for that as well, where it's very accepting and you can kind of just be who you want to be. And that's just been really great. And work has just accepted me. Yeah. Yeah.
That's so good. Nice to
Yeah.
hear a positive experience.
Yeah.
Nora, anything from your side?
Basically, it was the same for me. So I had my coming out, I think, half a year before the pandemic started. So yeah, it was perfect timing for me because working at home really was like, it encouraged me to I had like a safe space at home. I could do, I can experiment. I could just wear dresses and start wearing makeup and all the things. And it was in my own home and it was really fine. It was kind of a safe space. And yeah, since we are working in the office again, it was like, okay, now I'm ready. I was ready to take it outside of my like little safe spot that I had at home. So the pandemic really, really supported it. I mean, it was basically the perfect timing. But yeah, every one of my colleagues were super supportive. When I told them, when I had my coming out with them, it was like, so okay, now nothing, everything makes sense. It's yeah. And we're so happy for you. And I had a lot of people who helped me, like all the name changes in our pipeline, and everything went super smoothly. It was really, really cool. So no negative experience from my side, not at work and not outside till yet. So, but yeah, I think Germany, it's the same with Montreal. It's really like tolerant. So as long as you don't bother anyone else, it's perfectly fine. So yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Charmaine, anything to add to that one before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, personally for me, there wasn't anything super negative either in my real life, or I'm not real life, in my personal life, like in real life. And also in a workplace, the workplace has always been extremely supportive. I think the strange thing for me during the pandemic was that I just moved to London from San Francisco, and coming from, you know, one of the most LGBTQ queer friendly location to London, which is also very LGBTQ and queer friendly, I was trying to find a community, and because lockdown happened, I was just like, oh no, where's everyone? So I had to, you know, kind of wait until everything went back to normal. And now, you know, it's such a big presence. And my, you know, at my current job, we have our kind of queer ERG group, which is very helpful as well. And, you know, it's been all positive on my end.
Oh,
I think our industry is like really supportive in general in terms of LGBTQ, because I don't know, in my experience, at least here in Europe, like all those creative businesses really attract a lot of individuals and individual thinking minds. And I think it's most of them are like, so hey, okay, I want to do cool stuff, you want to do cool stuff, so I don't care about your sexuality, how you identify or whatever. So I think our business is really like-minded, let's say it like this.
Yeah.
And we're quite lucky that a lot of our visual effects companies are in cities that are very open-minded.
Yes, exactly.
So that definitely helps, you know. And, you know, I think also, I'm not sure of all the other locations, but I felt like generally our industry is a newer industry. So we have younger folks versus a lot of, you know, older generation folks who might have a different mindset. I just feel like, you know, anyone around our age or younger, they're just completely accepting.
Yeah,
true.
That's very true. Yeah, it's a good point. It'd be great to hear from other people in other countries and their experiences. So please do join the live chat or get in touch afterwards. So just sticking with the workplace for a moment, how important do you feel it is for Pride and other initiatives to be celebrated or adopted in the workplace? I know a lot of companies are not you know, specifically in our industry, but a lot of companies and brands kind of accused of like rainbow washing, for instance. They just have a colored logo for a month and then there's not really anything changing, or they're not supporting any charities or anything like that. What's your kind of take on that, and how can workplaces do it properly, really? Nora, can we start with you with that one?
Yeah, sure. I think like in the end, it comes down to basically or at least in my experience, it is like you either like celebrate Pride or you don't. So I don't think we need like a special date or weeks or month. I mean, I'm glad that those things exist, and because it creates like kind of awareness for everyone. But at least for me, and that's my personal opinion, we don't need to like force it to like show it off. Because in my experience, if you try to force it and to show it off and to rub it under everyone's nose, it's like you the goal is the opposite of what you want. So in my experience, all of my colleagues, and like if we just like look at my work or the work, they're really supportive and they really like it. And I had a talk with a lot of people and they asked me questions and I was open about it. And I think this is like most like this honest openness, and talking openly about it is way more effective than like, okay, now it's like it's this date, so we have to do it. And it always it feels like forced, and if people are forced, they tend to do quite the opposite. So
Yeah.
in my experience, it's not really necessary, but it's really nice to have it because of the awareness that it creates. And this is very, very important.
Yes, I agree. Charmaine?
Yeah, I feel like I have a complicated relationship with Pride, as I'm sure a lot of people do. It's you know, it's something we definitely need, but at the same time, there are better ways of handling Pride than it just being, a big party or a parade,
Yeah.
as most people assume it is. Like Nora made a very good point. Pride to me is like 365 days a year, right? Like it is something that's just with us every single day. And I think that's something that, those who are not LGBTQ, also need to understand. And a lot of it, I think the great thing about Pride is that it brings people together, and it, gives people the chance who've never, known much about the community to learn about the community. And, education and advocacy is absolutely what Pride is for. But at the same time, we also need people to, take the initiative of learning more about our community. It's a two-way streak, right? It's not just one-sided or it's just for fun. But at the end of the day, we end up having fun because we're all amazing people. But I just feel like Pride is something that everyone can experience, and it's not just a LGBTQ thing.
Yeah, love that. Thank you. And G, anything to add to that one?
Yeah, I mean, I'd just say it's like education of everyone, so people know as much as possible, and also like making sure that when in the recruitment process, like even just having a pride flag on a website is useful for people coming in to understand that people are pride friendly, and they can see that from an outgo. We're a visual kind of world and what we do. So like just having that little image, it really can help people like feel comfortable before they even start the company,
Yeah. That visibility again. I know from a marketing PR perspective, which is my sort of day job, a lot of companies that I've worked for, it's usually not just Pride Month, but other initiatives as well, or awareness days. It's usually a bit of a scramble. Like, oh, it's coming up, we need to do something kind of thing. And it is an all year round thing. It can't just be, oh, let's just stick a pride flag on our logo. It needs to be part of a conversation and a culture, which is what I always try and push for, but it's easier said than done. But I think, a lot of companies have got sort of representation groups as well that are helping
this way. It definitely circles back to, your first question of like, why does representation matter? I think, to G's point of like saying, be more visible, have some flags, but also the people who are visible. Like personally for me, I'm always like willing to answer questions and have conversations with people about being LGBT. And, I think it's very important that we do have more people out there who are willing to do that, because at the end of the day, people feel more comfortable talking to someone they know than to just be thrown in like a Pride event where it can be quite overwhelming. So, any chance we have of just like one-on-one conversations with people, I think is far more impactful than a giant parade celebration.
Yeah, basically it was the same for me. Like I realized that for most of the people, for most of my colleagues, I was like the first touching point with transgender. So they obviously had a lot of questions. And I am very open about it. I mean, it's like you can ask me anything, and if it gets too intimate or too private, and I will call you out and say, okay, it's enough. But I learned from that experience that talking is way more, or like just being there, just being someone people can turn to. And I had a lot of talks over the last 3 years with all kind of people from the LGBTQ community and asking me questions. And for example, I had one colleague of mine who moved from Italy to Germany, and she asked me, okay, how safe is it in Germany? For being around and living openly queer and stuff like that. I think this is way more important than just like having a Pride Month. But visibility, I don't say that visibility isn't important. It is, it really is. And even if it's just like a small flag or like, hey, okay, a button or whatever, even on recruitment booths or stuff like that. I mean, I went to the FMX and was like for 3 years on the recruitment booth, and I openly talked with students about it. And I think this is really like the kind of work that needs to be done instead of like just, okay, it's Pride Month, let's do something. It's important, yes, but it's, in my opinion, just a small part of how daily business in the company, in our companies and in our business has to be done in terms of LGBTQ.
Yeah, tip of the iceberg kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, every little bit helps.
Yes, I know a big brand that uses that slogan as well. So on to the sort of last question, unless we want to talk about anything else, but just I picked out the term ally, and that can be used for different scenarios, but for the purpose of this talk, what do you feel about the term ally in terms of, being a friend of a group and supporting them? I mean, from my perspective, it was kind of like, are we not all in it together? Like, surely any rights for any group affects the wider public. So any rights, any injustifications of your rights is a human rights issue. So I just wondered what you thought about that. Charmaine, could we go to you first?
Yeah, the term ally is interesting because as much as I love our allies, I actually like the word accomplice more. I can't take the credit for this. This was said in a talk that I picked up a while ago. And I forgot who the speaker was. I will give you that later. But an accomplice kind of implies that you are working alongside with the LGBTQ community. Ally sounds a little passive, right? And to me, an ally or accomplice is someone who is willing to, step up for you when need to, also educate themselves. Like it's not all about someone from the community, telling them what it is to be LGBTQ. It's also them trying to, be in our shoes, empathize, and really understand what our lives are like. And a lot of that is, again, comes down to education and also surrounding yourself with more people who are LGBT, right? Like I feel like one thing that, as a broad strokes, because we're, when it comes to LGBT issues, women issues, race issues, like they all intersect in one way or the other. And as an ally, I feel like you need to actively take charge. And, it can be something as simple as, talking to one of us, just asking us, how our partners are, right? Like that's a quick, easy first step. Or, if you hear that someone gets misgendered, correcting them, not needing the person who's being misgendered correct them. So there's a lot of things that we can do in our day-to-day, experiences around people that can, really make a difference. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture of like, I'm going to make a revolution and start a law or something like that. It can be, it's all about the little things. The little things is what, the more people see that that's common, then the more people will, I don't know, basically see their normalcy to all of this.
Yeah, it starts at home, as they say.
Yeah.
G, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. It's like, and I like the term that accomplice rather than ally.
Yeah, me too.
And like I think it's like it's definitely being an ally in your actions and not just saying you're an ally. An example from my mum by re-educating people, like she said to one of her friends that her children were queer, and then they were, oh, you can't use that word anymore, and then re-educating and saying that you can, and just little things like that, and people that come talk to you and really really willing to maybe fight the corner a little and just have the knowledge, and but also doesn't have to be completely outspoken about it, and just there for you, someone who just comes and talks to you if something, if they spot something and they're like, was that okay for you, or that kind of thing. That's really nice.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And actually,
Yeah.
this question wasn't on my list, but you've just made me think, you know, do you think part of a reason there isn't more conversations is because maybe people, accomplices or allies, they might be a bit kind of worried about, I don't know, saying something wrong or just being a little bit scared because they're not too sure how to approach it. I guess there's enough information in the world now to not have really have that problem, but
Maybe. I
yeah.
think it's just being accepting, and sometimes people will mess up, and it's just being kind about how you maybe correct someone if
Yes.
like, and like I've always if someone misgendered me or something, I'd always take them to side and speak to them instead of like embarrassing them in front of a big group. I'm more subtle around it, and sometimes I'll let people off if it's if it's like a really stressful situation, because it takes away from what you're trying to do in that room, maybe sometimes as well. But it's all about like being nice about it and not biting someone's throat off for doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Nora?
Yeah, I think like the term ally it's a little bit, I don't know, for me it implies like, okay, you have to be ally with someone because they're too weak to defend themselves. So it's kind of has a little bit of a negative touch. So I really love accomplice. That's really, I really like it because it implies that you're in it. No chance of getting out. So no, I really think it's cool. And also what G said, I mean, for me in the beginning, often people misgendered me. I mean, they knew me for 5 years and they used the male pronouns and it was perfectly fine. So of course there's like this kind of transition phase, and it took like half a year for most of my colleagues to get used to it. Now everything is fine. I think the most important part is like, basically for me, it's like if you're learning another language, of course, if you're, let's say I move to China, of course, I don't speak Mandarin, but I can try, and people there will realize, so okay, I'm a foreigner, but I try to use or to speak their language, and they're really happy if I try. It doesn't matter if it's really correct and everything is fine, or if my accent is fine or whatever. But at least I try, and I think the same can be adapted to the LGBTQ community, because if you are someone who hear that someone gets mispronounced or whatever, and even if you don't use the correct pronouns, I mean, of course, my pronouns are she, her, but a lot of people use they, them. So, and I correct them like decidedly after the talk, but even if they would use the wrong pronouns, it would be fine because I appreciate the gesture. For me, it's like, so, okay, hey, you stepped up. And that's the kind of spirit I think we need. Like, you don't have to be perfect and you don't have to know everything, but yeah, if you try, it's really cool.
Yeah, that's such a good way to put it. So that's the end of my questions, but we've got a few minutes left, and I just wondered, is there anything in our industry or beyond that people can, if anyone's watching this right now and they really want to kind of join something online, perhaps, just get to know more people in the industry, is there anything that exists right now?
I mean, I know it's like very difficult, especially if you're younger and you're just coming to terms with yourself and your identity. It's hard to open up and, meet others and, be out there. But, there are things like Lesbians Who Tech, which I think is an amazing conference. And they hold one every year in San Francisco. And it's such a great place to find so many like-minded individuals, but also to hear how so many other organizations and companies, handle their LGBT employees. And so, I think more and more you'll find things like that. Like I know there's also a queer gaming community as well. Like there's so many, even though VFX may be quite small and niche, like there are similar enough industries and also organizations that really, put themselves out there to, just know that you're not alone, which I think is a great thing. And, again, there's always people, at your work who are more than happy to talk, and I'm one of them. So, find people. There's never such thing
Yeah.
as stupid questions. Just ask questions,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because we're definitely here to, try and help you understand more about our community.
Great. Anyone else? Any shout outs for anything?
I mean, what we like did in the last year at Scan9 was like we had an LGBTQ ambassador who basically whose job was to even in interviews and job interviews, if it was getting all like a little bit more concrete, there was like, okay, we have an LGBTQ ambassador, and I think it's important to, even if it's not affecting the person, but at least to know that there is one. We also have like a monthly newsletter where we refer to the ambassador and to our LGBTQ stream in our messaging tool that we have in-house. And I think stuff like that, because then you can read it. No one is watching you reading it, and you can reach out to like-minded people and see, even if you don't chat with anyone or so, you can see, okay, who is in those streams, and you can chat to them directly, or just like if you're a little bit cautious or nervous or whatever. And I think the same was true for women in the VFX. I mean, at Scanline, we had a lot of women like out in like higher positions, which I really like. I think it's coming more and more, and it's getting more normalized, and I really like that. It's a really cool thing to see. So everyone is like more open, and you can talk to each other, and you can reach out, and yeah, I really like it. I mean, I experienced this on the FMX when I remember back when I first went there like 5 years ago. It was like, so, okay, hey, I know it's a male-dominated industry, and I don't know if my show reel is good enough or whatever. It's like, just try it, show it to people, and you will find the right people that will encourage you. It's if you're looking for them, you will find them, because at least in my experience, every company has strong women, strong LGBTQ people in the right positions, so you can reach out and they will encourage you.
Yeah, I am so happy that I got to speak to you today. Thank you so much. And as you say, it's so important to have that visibility. So I'm so happy to have this today and to add it to our other awesome talks of the day. So please stay tuned for our next talks. And for now, thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye.